It's funny. We actually moved to Hawaii in a large part to help Ashley heal from extreme anxiety that was like so crippling almost, And we came here to kind of seclude and heal and figure out where it was coming from.
Yeah, I went through some intense experiences back on mainland and felt like I needed a fresh start. And I'm glad that I made that decision to take the time to kind of self-examine and look at what was going on, because I was able to figure out the root of all of these issues, which had nothing to do with what I thought they were about. Of course, when you do the inner work, you always find the root. And one of the things I learned along the way was how to heal and manage my anxiety. And I think that this tool that I use now is super helpful for people to just use in their everyday lives, because I didn't know how to cope with my anxiety. I do now, but I didn't then, and I wish I knew what I knew now. So I'm going to share with you guys just a simple tool to help you manage anxiety. But of course, if you want to heal your anxiety, it definitely takes doing inner work.
And figuring out what's the root.
Yeah, so this video is not going to heal anxiety. It's just going to teach you how to cope with it. And that's really a good first step, because you need to be able to cope in order to heal. So
yeah, look at it from a healthy place, right? To be able to get through it. Because if it runs you, then like you can't possibly overcome it or heal it, because it's running. You are it. You are the anxiety. So how did you separate from yourself and then the anxiety? How did you keep them separate?
Right. So first off, I had to have courage to want to overcome it, right? Because I got to a point where I decided that I didn't want to be this person who was so afraid and anxious that I had to move away to an island and lock myself in a house and never go outside, because that's literally what happened. It got that extreme. And
I'm glad you made it out.
yeah, I had to make that decision.
I'm glad you got through that.
Takes courage, but then I had to learn how to manage it and how to deal with it. And one of the things that I learned along the way is that you can have anxiety and not become your anxiety. So anxiety is an experience and an emotion that is passing through me. It is not who I am, and it's just something that is happening like to and around me, I guess. Is
something that's arising. It's an experience just like any other sensation. Essentially, anxiety is coming from a theme of consciousness of like fear. It's coming from a thought of fear, and such intense fear to the point of being like, overwhelm.
Yeah, so I had panic attacks.
Yeah,
I would
to the point where you shut down and you're like, oh my God, I can't move.
I would be in fetal position, crying, hyperventilating. It was very intense and
at
extreme.
Its peaks, it would get that bad. And I think, a lot of people deal with anxiety on a daily basis of just like a chronic, mild anxiety. And it's really just a paranoia. It's a fear. And for you, though, you used a really interesting technique that kind of helped you distance yourself from it.
Yeah, and part of the yoga method is using the breath and using the body to draw awareness. Mm-hmm. So using those same yogic principles, I was able to overcome and cope with my anxiety and my panic attacks. So what happens when I'm having an anxiety attack is it's happening in my brain. Like nothing's actually happening outside of me. I'm getting into a fetal position. I'm in a ball and I'm crying as if I was being like physically attacked all around me. That's what it feels like. But actually, from a bird's eye view, nothing's going on. I'm just in my bedroom. So what's really going on here is it's all happening in my own mind. So becoming aware that everything is happening in my mind is really the first step, because then I can draw my attention away from the stories in my mind and into the physical now moment. And a good tool for doing that is becoming aware of your breath and your body, because your breath and your body is in the now moment. And my anxiety arises like kind of above my belly button. I get like a knot in my solar plexus, and it literally physically is like moving and hurts, and just there's something going on there.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Mine is in my chest. Like my heart like starts to cringe. I get like restless and like like really like paranoid, a little scared, like starts to shut down. So it's
like
interesting.
Your heart closes.
My heart closes. So it's interesting how it affects us all differently. Yours is like solar plexus. You get like afraid and you protect. That's your sense of power.
Yeah.
And for me, like it's my heart. I get anxious and scared of my heart. So it's kind of interesting how we all have different versions of how these states will affect us. So it's kind of cool to become aware of it, become aware of where's yours, because that will be your trigger. So for me, like if I pay attention to my solar plexus, maybe I'm not going to notice it.
Right.
But if I pay attention to my heart, I will definitely notice it. So figuring out that first, right? Like
Right.
figuring out where does your body even register the emotions.
Yeah. And you can do this for all emotions. This isn't just fear and anxiety. I mean, you can do this for anger. You could do this for anything, any emotion that's not on a
Shame,
higher
guilt,
frequency.
desire, lust, addiction, like they'll all manifest
In the
through
body.
the physical form in some way. And if we become aware of it, then what's the next step though? So you
Right.
notice this, but then what do you do?
Yeah, and the second thing is it might not even be a literal pain. It could be manifested in the body through the breath. So shortness of breath, like anything like that. What do you do
Yeah,
when
and
you're
that's
angry?
why, well, angry, yeah, it's short too. It's huffy, it's puffy. It's like running around like kind of
Right.
blowing steam, right? It's kind of like the bull like in the cartoons with like steam coming out its nose and your ears and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it's aggressive breathing. So whatever it is, they all have kind of a breath pattern that go with them that we
So-
can kind of pay attention to.
The way to kind of move out of the consciousness of anxiety or anger or fear or whatever is going on is to draw yourself into the now, and you get into the now by paying attention to the body. Where are you feeling it, and what is the breath pattern like? And move your attention out of the head, because it's all happening in the head. Anger, fear, it's all your mind's spinning. That's why I say mind is spinning, because your thoughts are just going in circles and circles and circles and circles, and they're causing a physical manifestation of the emotion. So you're going to move your awareness out of that space and into the physical body. So I'll put my hands above my belly button and allow myself to truly feel the feeling of fear and all of the discomfort and all of the boiling in my solar plexus and all the rock that is sitting there, because the reason why it perpetuates is because we're avoiding the pain, we're avoiding the feeling, we're avoiding the discomfort.
Avoiding the discomfort, yeah.
And
Exactly.
I don't want to feel anxious, and so I'm trying to get out of it, and the only
resisting.
only way I think to get out of it is by outthinking it.
Yeah, which ironically you have to embrace it.
Yeah, you can't outthink it.
You have to just be in it, and on the other side of being in it, you get through it and it passes.
Yeah, and we are taught to solve problems through thinking, and actually the mind is really limited. The mind can only think from its past index of thought. So the mind doesn't get new thoughts. You get new inspiring thoughts and solutions actually when you are silent and still. That's why great artists and musicians and composers and people who have had amazing inventions, we're like, how did you invent that? And they're like, I don't know, it just came to me.
Yeah, I'm listening to, or I just receive it, things like that.
Yeah, and we think if we're just going to try to think, we're going to come up with a solution, but we're actually just going to run a replay of the experience over and over again until we drive ourselves into insanity or an anxiety attack. So if you really truly want a solution, you actually do need to silence yourself and get still and allow yourself to receive from the, what do we call that? The collective
potential.
Yeah, from the collective potential, because all of the solutions and answers are all available to us, and our mind is really a receiver. And if we align ourselves with that frequency, we can be receptive to that. But if we're in a state of anxiety and fear, we're never going to get the solution. So running the mind over and over again isn't going to help us. And drawing ourselves into the present now and experiencing the emotion instead of resisting it is what's going to heal us. So bringing your focus and attention onto the body and tuning in to what's uncomfortable. So how does it feel? Those are the questions I'm asking myself. How does it feel? And I'm feeling it and embracing the pain in a sense. Don't you have a really good line for that? Embracing the pain?
Your ego is hiding behind your pain. If you embrace your pain, you will win this game of life. We find happiness and joy on the other side of our pain. When we embrace that which is uncomfortable for us, when we embrace our discomfort, on the other side is our liberation. So when you just sit with your anxiety, it naturally will leave because you're no longer resisting it. What we resist persists.
Right.
So as we continuously say, I don't want to be anxious, I don't want to be afraid, I don't want to be anxious, it will stay longer because we are kind of giving our power to it and being like, you have control over me and I'm scared of you. But instead, if you just sit with it, like if I sit with my chest getting tight and starting to feel scared and shutting down, and instead I just am like, oh, like open instead and stretch and expose and push myself through the experience, on the other side I'll notice that like it was blocking my peace and my happiness, and that there was nothing actually occurring. It was all in my head. So when we get these feelings, when we get the anxiety, you root into the moment, root into your body, and realize that this is not real. It's not real, it's in our head.
Yeah, and just move your focus out of the head and into the body. Feel where you comes up in your body, and then secondly, feel your breath and pay attention to your breath and become in tune with your breath, and see if you can start to direct your breathing instead of your breathing directing you, because your breath is going to dictate a neurochemical response in your brain. So if you have really shallow, short breath, your brain literally is getting triggered to think you're in danger.
Like fight or flight mode.
Yeah, and if you can slow your breath down consciously, then your brain starts to calm down. The sympathetic nervous system gets responded or gets triggered, and your brain thinks you're safe. So that's why people say, just take a deep breath. That's literally real.
It's actually really effective, yeah.
Yeah, so just paying attention to your body and your breath is a really good strategy to pull yourself out of panic attacks or feelings of helplessness or fear or intense rage and anger or any other emotion. Bring your awareness to your breath and your body and embrace what you feel with present awareness, not wrapped up in your thoughts. Just feel what's actually happening with all of your senses and immerse yourself into that experience with full present awareness, and it will slowly start to dissolve.
Yeah, and that sounds scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's why, we say you really have to have courage to look at yourself, to go into it, to step into it. It takes true bravery to be able to have that process.
To feel fear, to feel anxiety.
To feel it, yeah, and to keep going anyway. So that's why, we say that the real process, the inner work, is having courage and the willingness to accept your inner power and your inner control over these experiences. So how do you like going to a grocery store now? How do you go how do you go into uncomfortable situations?
Well, I've done a lot of inner work, so it's not as intense anymore because I'm getting to the root of where the anxiety is actually coming from. So that's the uprooting and healing, and we have tons more resources on how to do that, on how to uproot the problem. But the coping mechanism, like we went to the farmer's market like 2 weeks ago and I had a panic attack and I used the same tool. I just became aware of the fear and became aware of my shallow breathing and just used my tools. These are like tools in my toolkit, right? They're like my go-to resources.
And it may not actually ever stop. Like you might randomly still, she'll be fine for like months and then out of nowhere, maybe it'll come up again.
Yeah.
And it's like processing times to keep purifying and perfecting the healing.
But I no longer like believe
Play into it.
Yeah, I know what's going on through this awareness and I'm able to dissolve it through this body breath awareness. Like body breath awareness is the tool for healing these. We slip into lower stages of consciousness and all of these reactions are just our auto response. So that's it. Body breath awareness tool for coping with anxiety. And it's like in the moment, how do you fix it in the moment, right? But of course, if we want to heal it, really heal it, we need to do the inner work. But when it's happening, when it's arising, how do you deal with it? And it's the body breath awareness. Do you have a fly on your forehead?
Hey, little buddy. Namaste, guys. We love you so much. Hope this helps and brings peace.